I don't want to say I told you so, but I told you so. This week's Brazilian Grand Prix had absolutely everything. Shock drivers on the podium, controversial crashes, and a team implosion from Formula One's perennial underachievers in 2019. Welcome to the Formula One Grid Talk podcast. This is powered by F1 Chronicle. Visit f1chronicle.com for news, reviews, opinions on all things F1. Hosting today will be me, George Howson. And joining me today are F1 expert Alex Booth.
Hello.
Sports journalist Louis Edwards.
Hello.
And engineering student Owain Medford.
Hello.
Thank you very much for joining us today, lads. And you get the pleasure of reviewing what was an absolutely mental race in the last few laps, to say the least. But we'll tackle this as we normally do, with the winner, Max Verstappen in his Red Bull. He should have won last year, Alex, but he did the job this year. Absolutely brilliant drive from the young man yet again.
He did. It was redemption, which is exactly what he wanted. He was brilliant all weekend. He got pole position and drove an absolutely fantastic race. The safety cars probably threatened him a little bit. I think it was squeaky bum time for him towards the end, I suppose. But then Hamilton and Albon, that took the pressure off Verstappen. And it was another great victory for him. And he's finally looking like he's got back to the form he showed prior to the summer break.
Yeah, it's fair to say we gave him a lot of stick on the last episode, and rightfully so. But, you know, this weekend he was absolutely on it. And it wasn't easy for him, Louis. He had to make some important overtakes. I mean, that move that he did on Charles Leclerc and Hamilton on the same straight, really impressive, and showed that Honda power unit has some serious muscle behind it.
Yeah, it's been a surprise. And I think we've all given the Honda engine a lot of credit this year because it has absolutely stepped up massively in performance. And it really did show on quite a power-sensitive track against the likes of Ferrari and Mercedes. I think he definitely got the bit between his teeth, after almost being ran into by Kubica in the pits, and then seeing Hamilton quite a distance down the road from him when he came out the pit lane. A lot of work for him to do, but to get it done so quickly just shows like how much he wanted this race and just how good that Red Bull is.
Yeah, it's a very decent car, and I think one of us picked him for the win actually in the last episode. I think it was Ruby. I'm not too sure on that. But yeah, no, it's definitely a very good car, Wayne, and as well, Verstappen as well, pitting right towards the end. I mean, it was a very bold move by him and his strategist, but it ended up working. He was absolutely comfortable after overtaking Hamilton after the final safety car.
Yeah, to be very honest, as a Hamilton fan, I was a bit disappointed to see him pit because I was hoping that Hamilton would get the best tyres. And initially, I thought it was a bad move, but to pit him so late with the late safety car. But bearing in mind they had such a large gap between anyone else, Hamilton and Verstappen were pretty much in a class of their own up until that point. So he came out and he didn't actually lose that much. He lost one position, but he then had much better tyres, which are way easier to heat up behind a safety car, whereas Hamilton was on used soft. So I think it was a no-brainer to do it, really.
Yeah, in a way, but you still got to overtake him. But as we've seen time and time again, Alex, this is one thing that Max Verstappen knows how to do. It's how to pass.
It certainly is. He's very good at it. He really does have the fighting instinct. I think, as we said, he was getting a lot of stick from us before. But I think the reason for that is because we all know that what happened in Brazil is what he is capable of. And it's frustrating when exuberance probably gets the better of him. But in Brazil, it was a much more mature performance, very, very calm. And it was the drive of what we're all touting him to do as a future world champion. It was a champion's drive.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we've seen the exact same thing if Hamilton did it, or Vettel, or any of those other drivers that have won the championship before. It was a very impressive drive from him. Now, it was a Red Bull 1-2 of sorts this weekend, but not in the way you would expect. Second place, and yes, I'm not joking you. Second place, Pierre Gasly in his Toro Rosso, Louis. Absolutely unbelievable for a driver that was kicked out of Red Bull because he wasn't performing. We've said it time and time again. This guy has got talent. And he's done really well since going back to Toro Rosso, but this is just underlining it. Unbelievable.
Yeah, going back to Toro Rosso has really taken the pressure off Pierre Gasly. You know, he's got his confidence back, he's got his mojo back, and he's really putting in some great performances. I mean, before the safety cars, he was having like a really quiet race as the very dominant car, sort of best of the rest, behind the sort of the top three teams. You know, so even if all this carnage hadn't gone down, we would still be praising Pierre Gasly for an absolutely tremendous race. But you know, he made it count where he just made it count. You know, he took full advantage of Hamilton and Albon coming together, and then managed to outdrag the Mercedes to beat him by, I think it was like 0.06 seconds over the line. It was absolutely incredible performance. You know, the Toro Rosso, they've been they're really battling with Renault in the constructors, and this is absolutely huge for them.
Yeah, it's a massive result for Toro Rosso. I mean, we all said that it'd be quite unlikely for Toro Rosso to overtake Renault, and it still is. There still is a gap. Renault is still ahead, but it's not that much. Another good performance in Abu Dhabi, and Toro Rosso could finish fifth. I mean, how humiliating would that be for Cyril Abiteboul, for Christian Horner's second team, effectively, to beat them in the constructors' standings? But it could happen. Unbelievably, it could well happen in a couple of weeks' time. But yeah, it absolutely mental. I mean, you were mentioning, Louis, about Gasly doing really well. He was going around, he qualified in sixth place because of Leclerc's penalty, and he was going around in best of the rest position. If he finished in sixth or seventh, that would have been better than most of his Red Bull drives. But when he converted it to a podium, his first podium in Formula One, and Toro Rosso's second podium this year as well.
Yeah, ironically enough, it's ended up that Pierre Gasly has got a podium before Alex Albon, which you wouldn't have expected to be promoted to Red Bull. And it's actually catapulted Pierre Gasly above him in the championship. So that's not looking good. I mean, I imagine we'll be in the status quo next week. But yeah, Toro Rosso have inherited some of the benefits of Red Bull and Honda. And the feeling, I think, in the pit lane is that Honda obviously have some increased efficiency on the electric side, so they don't lose so much compared to Ferrari and Mercedes. So that's why he was able to outdrag a Mercedes up to the line.
Yeah, I think part of it was also that Hamilton did have some front wing damage that wouldn't have been helping his drag coefficient up there, but yeah, obviously Honda has some serious grunt. We saw it with Max Verstappen when he overtook Hamilton himself, and he was going faster than him. He was pulling ahead again across the line. It's incredible to see, really. I mean, maybe it's a taste of what's to come in 2021 with the closer regulations. I hope it is. We'd all love to see that. We'd all absolutely love to see that. What we'd also like to see a lot more of is McLaren doing well, because although he did finish in fourth place, we'll get on to Hamilton and his penalty in a bit, but third place and his first podium in Formula One and McLaren's first podium since 2014, well over 5 years, nearly 6 years because it was Australia, Carlos Sainz. And again, Alex, this is underlining some incredible performances by another driver who's just been an absolute standout this year. You said he was your driver of the year so far, and he's absolutely vindicating it.
He has, and considering where he was on Saturday, with the terrible problem he had in qualifying, unfortunately, at the start of the back, but he had a sense that, because he's done it a few times this season where he's fought his way through and ended up ahead of his teammate, and it happened again in the race. And we've spoke about before the progress that McLaren has made this season, and it's paid off, and they've finally got that elusive podium. As you say, it's been a very long time. I couldn't believe it. It was 2014 the last time. It doesn't seem that long ago, but when you think about it, actually, it is nearly 6 years ago. The only thing that I was disappointed was the fact it took them so long, to make the decision. I thought they could have, because Hamilton knew he was at fault. I know we'll get onto this later, but they could have easily done what they did in, I think it was Austin 2 years ago when they changed the podium ceremony, and they could have easily brought Sainz in there, because I just felt really sorry for him that he didn't get to experience his first podium actually on the podium itself, because how long is it going to be until he's on there again? So I felt sorry for him in that respect, but a fantastic result for McLaren.
Yeah, unbelievable result from McLaren, and hopefully it won't be too long until he gets another podium. But yeah, it is a bit strange how they didn't, because it was obvious. We'll get on to it, but it was obvious there was going to be a penalty there, and they've done it so many times. If it were Verstappen, they would have given him a penalty before he bloody made contact with him. But there you go. It seems like Hamilton, they seem to be a bit more apprehensive. I don't know what there was to decide really there. It was pretty odd. But again, we'll get onto that. So yeah, unbelievable for Carlos Sainz as well. It's worth saying that he started in 20th place, Louis. He effectively overtook 17 cars. I mean, that would have been an unbelievable drive if he was in a top 3 car, but he did it in a McLaren.
Yeah, it's brilliant. Yeah, it's great to see how McLaren are sort of progressing over this last year. I don't think any of us really predicted that McLaren would do this well after several horrendous years before. But yeah, it's incredible. He did it in Austria. He came from near the back, got into the points. He's done it again here. You know, Carlos Sainz is really a great talent, and it's showing that even though McLaren didn't have the best qualifying position, you know, it was what he was. Well, I think Lando qualified 11th and then started 10th, and then Carlos at the back. They both managed to score points. I think it's really a credit to the McLaren team and how they're doing.
Yeah, it's amazing. I still can't believe it's happened. I mean, it's fantastic for them to finally get on the podium again. I mean, that's 2 teams that have got on the podium this year that you wouldn't expect them to. So it is definitely positive going forward with the competitive of the sport. Now, a team that haven't been very competitive, quite frankly, for the second half of the season, I mean, Alfa Romeo, but Kimi Raikkonen ended up finishing 4th and Antonio Giovinazzi 5th. I can't believe I'm saying that, really. Again, another 2 results that there's just no way you would have seen it coming. I mean, just taking advantage and keeping the noses clean away, and they've got 22 points for it.
Yeah, it's just a nice incident-free race for them. Luckily, they had the reliability and they didn't run into anyone. So they've picked up the pieces from that penalty that Hamilton received and actually made a good point score out of it, which is good to see for them.
Yeah, definitely, really good to see. And like I said, it's a team that's been really struggling, and you like to see Kimi Raikkonen. I think most people like to see Kimi Raikkonen do well, and Antonio Giovinazzi as well. His best result in F1, I think, as well with that by some margin. I think the best he got before that was about 8th, maybe. So yeah, brilliant to see for them. Now, normally this would have been a good result for Daniel Ricciardo, 6th place for the Renault, but obviously with Toro Rosso getting so many, Alex, they're definitely under pressure going into Abu Dhabi, the final race.
Yeah, they are. There's only 8 points in it, and as you said earlier, that's not going to be good for PR for Renault, getting beat by both Honda teams. And as I think, especially Toro Rosso. But they did everything they could, and Ricciardo got the points. I think they're just waiting for 2019 to finish, to be perfectly honest with you. Daniel Ricciardo, as we know, it's not been the season that he was hoping for. I don't think they expected miracles, but you would think from where they were going from 2017 to 18, they were getting better. But it's just been a sideways step this season, really. So it was another unspectacular performance, I would say, from Renault. And they'll just be hoping that they can stay ahead of Toro Rosso in Abu Dhabi and secure that 5th place. Yeah,
that's what they'll be hoping for, but we'll have to see how that pans out. I mean, the heads will definitely roll if they finish behind Toro Rosso. I don't doubt that. But we'll see what happens. It's very much a sideways step, like you're saying, backwards in a way because of the 4th last year. This year, the 5th at best. Could be 6th after all this. 7th place, Lewis Hamilton. He finished 3rd, but he had a 5-second penalty. I mean, he had a hell of a race, Louis, but very much a Kvyat-esque move on Alexander Albon in the final laps.
Yeah, it was definitely a lunge, if you're being nice. I think what Alex said over the radio really summed up, I think, what a lot of people would feel about that crash. He's like, all he had to do was wait 3 more corners. He would have got him on the straight. I don't see why he had to rush. I think Alex was taking a very normal line into that corner. I don't think you have to be, defending hard on the inside going into that corner because it's just not the line. It was silly. It really was silly. I don't want to say it was desperate, but it was just not needed.
No, it wasn't needed. I mean, I think Martin Brundle on the commentary was trying to make out like Albon was going really wide. He left the door open for Hamilton, and yeah, he did, but Hamilton didn't have to do that. And this is a guy that's won 6 world championships, absolutely boss this season. It feels a bit wrong criticising him in a way, but it was definitely wrong on this one, Owain, and a deserved penalty, wouldn't you say?
I mean, yeah, slam dunk. The stewards gave a similar one for Ricciardo earlier in the race, so they're very, very similar incidents. Corner slightly different, but yeah, there's no other line through there. And you'd think of someone of Hamilton's experience would have thought, well, he's gone out quite wide, so he's come, and if he's gone out that wide, he's going to come back in, and I can cut back on him. And like you say, it's like 3 corners, and he's going to get him on the straight. I think, yeah, it's just a little bit of desperation there, and I think it might have maybe come from consistently being sort of dropped by the Red Bulls on occasion. Because I did notice it, like every time that Hamilton came in for a pit stop or did something, he just seemed to sort of go backwards through the pack a couple of places each time, which was a bit strange, to be honest, to see. But yeah, it's just, I think maybe it's come from that, but it's odd to see it, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, in a way, the guy's got nothing to lose, but I think in his post-race interviews, Alex, Hamilton was trying to make out that, if he got past Albon, he would have been able to catch Verstappen. But I think Verstappen was long gone by then, faster tyres, and frankly, as fast of a car, if not faster.
Yeah, that's ambitious because Verstappen was pulling away after the restart. I mean, nobody's perfect. Well, we can't give enough plaudits to Lewis and what he's achieved. But we all make mistakes. That move was never going to work. As has been correctly pointed out, all he had to do was wait for the start finish straight, and the second would have been his. But he's a racer. He saw a gap. Whether it was a big enough one, well, we can only speculate. But he went for the gap that he saw, and that's what pure racers do. And a lot of the time, to be fair with Lewis, it pays off, but this one didn't.
Yeah, some you win, some you lose. I mean, I think he realised his mistake because it was kind of a half-hearted one. He locked up, and then Albon turned in on him. He was always going to turn in on him.
Kudos for Renault at the end of the race, though, for admitting that he was at fault. I mean, I don't think you get many F1 drivers doing that. I mean, it was obvious it was, but at least he had the decency to admit it.
Well, as we'll get on to, F1 drivers definitely clash and do disagree on things. But yes, so let's round out the rest of the points runners. Lando Norris for McLaren, 8th place. Decent drive, Louis. Some more points on the board for McLaren, just solidifying that 4th place. I think they've quite comfortably now scored more points this year than they scored with Honda for their 3 years combined. So just underlining another fantastic year for them.
Yeah, it is. I don't know if any of you have seen the sort of the best team radio, the Lando's team radios to his team afterwards. It was so sad in a way because he was really disappointed that he wasn't Well, they credited him for allowing Carlos to get past. He was like, well, it wasn't exactly by choice. So it was too fucking slow. And it's like, and it's like he's such an honest driver. He's he clearly recognises that he didn't have the pace in that race to compete with what Carlos was doing. And yeah, that hard tyre doesn't seem to suit the McLaren very much. We saw it in Mexico. We've seen it here in Brazil. That it just doesn't seem to work the best. And yeah, the drivers aren't able to get the most out of the car.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't know what strategy Norris was on, but yeah, you're right. It doesn't really seem to favour their car. But most drivers at the front only use the soft and the mediums, so maybe a strategical error there. But obviously, you can't criticise the whole McLaren garage for strategy problems because obviously it worked for Carlos Sainz. I still can't remember that 20th to 3rd, 17 places. Wow, that's something else. That really is. Sergio Perez was 9th. And there's not really too much to say about it. I mean, he's another solid drive by him, Owain. Again in the points. I think that's 7 races out of the last 8 that he's been in the points. Very solid rounding up of the year for Racing Point, who I think before this race were actually ahead of Toro Rosso.
Yeah, it's a pretty standard result for them. They managed to get it they managed to get the result and picked up a couple of points, which they seem to be. That seems to be their game plan is just get the points. I think we're going still through a bit of a transition between the Vijay Malaya ownership and now to this consortium. So I'm looking for next year and the year after when I want to see them competing much better for the top the top four prizes. That's where I want to see them. Unfortunately, they're in seventh, and they need to be higher than that really for a team that typically does well on its budget and now has a bigger budget, hopefully.
Yeah, it is very difficult to criticise them though, because I think they do have the smallest budget in F1. So it is hard to criticise. But yeah, compared to what they have done before, it's not as good. But 2021, if they're growing their budget, everybody's got the same budget effectively, or around the same opportunities. So you think that'd favour them because of that, but we'll have to see how it pans out. Honestly, I don't think it's been a bad year for them because it's transitioning from ownership for like 10 years or whatever it was before then to this one now. It's not easy. I think Perez did a sterling job this year though.
Plus, with the increase in form of McLaren, you can expect them to go down. So it would really be a sick, to be honest, if it was last year. But what can you do?
Yeah, and Toro Rosso for that matter. I mean, they've been a lot better this year too. But yeah, speaking of Toro Rosso, their second driver, Daniel Kvyat, 10th place, final point. Again, just solid drive, overshadowed by his teammate Alex.
Yeah, he was. I think before Pierre Gasly's demotion to Toro Rosso, we were talking up Kvyat and how he'd improved since his demise in 2017. And then was brought back. He got that fantastic podium in Germany. But it's Gasly really that's grabbed the headlines ever since. Kvyat, when he was out in Q3, sorry, he was out in Q1, wasn't he? Whereas Gasly made it all the way through, which was a surprise. So I think Kvyat probably did the best he could do, and he got a conciliatory point at the end. It was helped by attrition and some collisions at the front, but yeah, it was a bit behind his teammates' performance this weekend.
Well, it happens, unfortunately. Now, a guy that really could do with some points, as his team as well, for that matter, Kevin Magnussen and Haas, 11th place, Louis, so close to the points in what is an absolute dog of a car to drive at the moment.
Yeah, it wasn't helped by an ambitious lunge by Daniel Ricciardo at all. It was a poor effort by Ricciardo on trying to overtake there. I think we've seen Ricciardo make some daring lunges, but I don't think he's got quite got to grips with manually, setting his brake bias season. So,
I don't know what you're talking about.
What am I talking about? Yeah, it was a shame. I think he probably had some lasting damage from that incident, and just couldn't make it work on the safety cars. Both Haas's struggled on safety car restarts. We saw Grosjean from good point position just completely drop after I think the first safety car, and they were just never able to recover. No.
Yeah, I mean, third penalty for Ricciardo as well. I mean, it's very unfortunate because he was in the points up until then too, so you never know. If they didn't get hit, he could have got points, but again, Haas just missing out, so close yet so far. Same for Williams as well. George Russell, 12th in the chaos at the end of the race. He got pretty damn close to the points as well, Wayne, but again, just not quite there for the points, but you can't blame the guy.
Yeah, I mean, he's done well to get himself ahead of Grosjean and Hülkenberg there. So any other day, it's a good result. It's a great result today. But it's just, we shouldn't be saying that about Williams, really. I'd love to see Williams further up there, but like we've been saying all year, and even last year, it's just not in the team at the moment or in the car, really. I think the team is working as hard as possible. And it's one of those things where they're going to have to focus, on 2020, but really they've got to get a handle on the 2021 regulations early and make sure that they're going down the right path to try and stop this from happening, because they've started on a bad foot in 2017 and it's just got worse and worse each successive year.
Yeah, it seems to be getting further and further behind, but hopefully the 2021 regulations will give them a chance. We'll see. Next year could well be painful as well. Probably will be, but who knows? Who knows? They've got plenty of time to prepare the next year's car.
Yeah.
Probably abandon this one pretty early. But yeah, that's the way it goes. 13th, unlucky for some. Romain Grosjean, really good in qualifying. Again, this Haas car is great in qualifying. 7th place, but it's like a stone towards the end, Alex, on tyres that they just can't seem to keep the temperatures down on.
Well, how many times have we said that this season about Haas that have been really good in qualifying and then just fallen in the race? I think I said this on the last podcast we did. I think Haas just waiting for this season to end, to be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, what more can they hope for? I mean, the 9th in the Constructors' Championship, no chance of any progression from there.
No.
So, and it was just another mediocre performance by them. Although I said that I did feel sorry for Magnussen. I think without Ricciardo's banzai move, he could have found himself in the points, but it would have been a bit of a consolation prize, I think.
Yeah, it wouldn't make much difference to their overall standings with Alfa Romeo doing so well this weekend. They're pretty much done in 9th at this point, if not mathematically, realistically. But there you go. 14th place, Alexander Albon Louis, and I think Sam tipped Albon for a podium for this race on the podcast last week, and it really, really should have been his first podium. I feel so sorry for the guy.
Yeah, he did a remarkable job, when the Ferrari sort of, he was just doing brilliantly, that just getting the jump on the Ferraris. It's hard to get into words because you just know how you can praise him, his kingdom come in this race, but it's sadness because you just know how it all ends. And the fact that he was so close to his first podium, that we've all been saying that he's going to get some point because he's shown some absolutely remarkable talent at the Red Bull. He's really come in. He's set a precedent. He's really pushing on. And for a rookie, people seem to forget he's a rookie, and he's in that Red Bull car. He doesn't seem intimidated by the likes of Sebastian Vettel or Lewis Hamilton. He just gets his head down and races, and he's been doing a brilliant job. And hopefully, I think we can all really hope that something comes good in Abu Dhabi.
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, he's probably going to be fired up after this. He seems pretty unflappable, but I think this will definitely rally him up quite a bit. I would love to see him on the podium. If anybody at the moment, other than perhaps Nico Hülkenberg, obviously he's waited a while, bless him, deserves to get a podium more than him. It's definitely one that he deserves. But speaking of the Hulk, definitely another race to forget for him. 15th place after his penalty for overtaking on the safety car. Amateur move from him in his 9th season of F1. He's not covered himself in glory much in this one.
Yeah, it's very forgettable. And to be honest, you don't want to see it from someone that has the experience that he does and has gone very well at Brazil before, where he's taken pole positions here, so he knows how to drive a car. But he's just so far down, and I think it's unfortunate because he's had a season kind of like that. The entire season has just been a bit of a shrug of the shoulders, really. We haven't seen some of the potential that we know he's got, and I can understand why Renault will be making the switch to Ocon next year, bearing in mind performances like these.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard for the whole. He's a really talented driver, we know this, but on days like this, he's shown it time and time again where he could have got a podium, he could have got a good result. He just doesn't seem to be in the right place at the right time, and he's had so many chances for it. Baku 2016, Brazil 2012, Germany this year, this race. There's loads of others probably as well. He's just not there when it counts, and that's been arguably his biggest downfall, unfortunately. 16th place in the last finish, Robert Kubica, the only man a lap down. He was 2 laps down before the safety car. Not really much to say about him, Alex, other than the fact that he should be very careful when he's pulling out of his pit box.
Yeah, that was a bizarre incident, wasn't it? I think you can't really just blame him for it. I think I think Williams should have realised as well and not released him so early. But again, Kubica miles off George Russell's pace, as we've seen. Although I don't want to criticise him too much because I was a big supporter of Kubica coming back to Formula One, but in hindsight, it probably wasn't the best thing for him. I think Williams probably could have picked someone else. I think it was a seat for a younger driver, really. But just going back to the race, again, it's similar to Haas. I've read an article today, actually. Kubica said that he'll be happy once Abu Dhabi's done because he doesn't have to drive the car again. And I think that's his attitude. I mean, what more can you say about that, really?
It's not good, is it? That's not what you want from your driver. I didn't hear that. I will go on a story about Williams. I don't know if you guys have seen this. I think it's been shared in our group. That Williams have not been paid properly from their last year's sponsors, the sponsors that Sergei Sorokin had to the team, and basically because
that is the root of all their problems.
Yeah, a lot of money they missed out on, basically because they just weren't good enough. That's what they said, and we're just like, no, we're not paying you. It's not happening. You were that bad last year.
I mean, Sorokin wasn't that good.
No, he really wasn't. Listen, I do like Will Buxton, and I do value his opinion on stuff, but I don't get why I had a fascination with Sorokin. He wasn't that good. He wasn't better than Lance Stroll, which doesn't mean you're that great, let's be honest here.
The biggest issue is, like, surely you have to. Like, it should be in the contract. Obviously, there are performance clauses in contracts in Formula One, specifically for this reason. You know, if it's in the contract or not in the contract, as the case may be, that they need to get above a certain performance, then you've got no option but to pay, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I agree, but it depends what's in the contract. We don't know the ins and outs of the article. It doesn't say, you know, maybe it says you need to have X amount of TV hours or something like that. No idea.
Is that up to them? Like,
no idea. I mean, it's a contract. You could say what you want in theory. I don't know how these teams do this, and they're not going to reveal it. You'd like to think that they're not doing it because of a legitimate reason, but of course we see this all the time. People trying not to pay other people because of bullshit reasons, basically. But we'll have to see how that one develops. It's not what the team needs. It's just another thing just to beat him up with. It's just one thing after another for Williams. It really is. It's not what you want. But yeah, so back to the race, and a moment I've been waiting for this entire podcast, to be honest with you. You've probably noticed two drivers that I've not mentioned so far, Vettel and Leclerc, the Ferraris. Where were they? Where did they finish? Well, they didn't. They classified 17th and 18th. They brought out, I believe, the final safety car of the race, and because they ended up colliding with each other, a Turkey 2010 moment for Vettel and his teammate again, Louis. It's a bizarre one, this, isn't it? It just came out of nowhere.
Yeah. I mean, it just looked like when they hit, I didn't think it would do that much damage. I mean, I don't know what was up with the pressures on their tyres, but the sidewalls completely gave in after just a couple of taps. Yeah. Granted, they were going, nearly 200 miles an hour. There's a lot of load going into those tyres, but still, it was a bizarre one. I mean, I don't know why Vettel battled as hard as he did, because I think he knew that Leclerc was on fresher tyres. He was going to get past at some point. I do respect Ferrari's decision to let them race, because so many times this season we've seen team orders just sort of come into play. But, the teammates, you should be giving each other a bit more room. Vettel was complaining that he had nowhere to go. I think he had plenty of space on the right of him to go. It was just all very bizarre, and one that if I was Matteo Binotto, I'd be absolutely cracking their heads together and telling them to sort it out.
It's shocking. It really isn't. And in theory it doesn't matter. Ferrari are going to finish second in the Constructors' Championship, but that's mean that Leclerc's gone behind Verstappen now in the Drivers' Championship, which is something. So there's potentially no Ferrari driver at the awards ceremony in Paris after the year's done. So it's a shocking one. I mean, I've watched this several times away, and I'm kind of stumped as to who's at fault here. But I've got a theory behind what caused the accident. I want to get your take on it. Who do you think's at fault here, if anybody?
For me, it's Vettel 100%. Like 100%, like easy as. The way I look at it, Leclerc, he knows that he's going to have Vettel on the back of him, so he pulls to the right. Well, he pulls to the right-ish, and then pulls left a little bit, as far as I can tell, exactly 2 meters. You know, like the feeling in the car that he's got to have, and spatial awareness to pull exactly 2 meters away from the edge of the track is amazing. There, to be honest, for me. And yeah, Vettel's momentum is going to carry him to the right hand side, and that's obviously where you'd want to get the move, because it's just the easier way to do it, to be honest. But he could have gone left. I think it was possible to go left, and he would have made the overtake. But Vettel's gone right. He's got basically alongside and almost in front, and he's then decided to try and open an already open door, and it's just not come off for him at all. And all he's done is take 2 points positions away from a team that really should have been, 4th and 5th.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a hard one for me to call. I mean, it was just to go 100%. It was Vettel overtaking Leclerc, wasn't it? Leclerc was the one.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think it's a tough one. I mean, what I think possible, because some people have been saying they've looked at the onboards and they've shown that Leclerc had his wheel to the right when they made contact. I think what could have, I mean, it's potentially, it's not the sole cause of it, but I think what could have possibly happened is Leclerc then picks up a bit of a toe from Vettel, just from the side, because you can get that from the wake of it. And it could have just thrown the car a little bit, because they're going 200 miles an hour. It's right before the braking zone. So I think that could have contributed partially to it. But yeah, Vettel had a space. He's a 4-time world champion. And he said his teammate. Simple as that. It's not as if there wasn't enough room. There wasn't a lot. It was enough, though. It was hard racing, but it was fair from Leclerc. And yeah, Vettel swearing in German on the radio. That's what you can tell he's really mad, because he's speaking in his native language. But yeah, that was nuts. And potential handbags going into 2020 for the 2 Ferrari drivers, Alex. It's not what the team needs at all.
It's certainly not. And the Italian media this week have come down on them like a ton of bricks, especially with very stern criticism of Sebastian Vettel. They likened him to a baby that's thrown his toys out of the pram. I completely agree with Owen. I'm in the car. I believe it was Vettel's fault. I think he could have avoided it. And I kind of see where the Italians are coming from, really, because we've seen Vettel get rattled in the past and let his emotions get the better of him, and it's contributed to mistakes like this. I mean, look at Baku in 2017, for instance.
Yeah.
I'm not comparing the 2 incidents. I'm just stating that I think he sometimes does let it get the better of him. But it's certainly not what Ferrari needs. They need as much points as they can get. I know they're guaranteed second, but it would be, as you pointed out, George, for them not to have a representative at the awards, for them to have not finished at least third in the World Championship, either Vettel or Leclerc. That's a failure for Ferrari this season, considering the hype that they were getting at the start. And it's just, I think the incident between them in Brazil just basically summarised Ferrari's season, basically.
Yeah.
You can have one picture of their season, it's that, I think.
There's a few of them, and the most of them are negative, unfortunately. It's, yeah. I mean, they came out of the blocks after the summer breaks, Louis. The fastest car on the grid by some margin, especially in qualifying. They've dominated qualifying for most of the second half of the season, but it seems now they've lost that advantage, and, they'll have a challenge on to even get second ahead of Red Bull at this rate, especially if they're imploding like this. It's like I mentioned it in the intro when I wasn't fluffing my lines. They are the perennial underachievers this year. They should have got way more wins than what they have. And yeah, they wouldn't have won this one, but they would have got decent points, and they've just thrown it away.
Yeah, it has been a poor season, and Ferrari really needs to step up in 2020. I think most importantly, they need to make sure that their drivers are not going to be doing this again. A very stern warning needs to be given to both of them that this will never happen again, because it's the last thing that Ferrari needs. They need to, rebuild essentially. It kind of feels like 2014-esque. We were all thinking this is all going to go so great, but it's just been really poor. But and to see that they were just being outdone by the Red Bulls and being completely outdone by the Mercedes in the last few races. It's just not good enough from them. And, you shouldn't. I respect them for, as I said earlier, I respect them for allowing the drivers to race, but, you should. The drivers, you need to have a bit of brains about you to try and make it to the end of the race, and even more brains about you when you're, racing against your teammate.
Yeah, definitely. You got to be extra careful at the end of the day, especially when it doesn't really matter this race. I mean, unless they won it, it wouldn't really matter. They're still second in the championship. Neither driver can win the drivers' championship. It doesn't really matter, but they just humiliated themselves. As simple as that. They just have, and they just put the cherry on top of the icing on this shit season that they've had. Basically, it really has been something. They've got a very good car under them still, but
the thing for me that is the worst part is all they've done is cause themselves a lot of drama and a lot of scrutiny going into next season.
Yeah,
and they've had the fastest car since the summer break. Yeah, they've had those first 3 wins in Belgium, Italy, and Singapore, and for one reason or another, they haven't had a win in the next 5 races. They haven't even been close. They've thrown it away every time, either by strategy or by driver error, and it's really not good enough for the top flight, like the oldest, best, most experienced team in Formula One. The one that should really be going out, and this is the same team that won 5 world titles on the bounce, and it should not be throwing away wins like that. And arguably, I think the biggest issue is that they don't have a subordinate driver anymore. It's been creeping away for years. Kimi was good enough. Kimi was basically a rear gunner, but good enough to challenge Vettel when Vettel had a bad day, which is what you really want. And they've thrown that away by not clearly designating who's the lead driver, who isn't. And it's caused them issues time and time again.
It's always going to be difficult with the 2 drivers that they've got to, because I know Charles, he's only in his 2nd season, but he's not going to want to be stuck as number 2 driver if he's getting more wins than Sebastian Vettel. And then Sebastian Vettel is the experienced driver. He's not going to be wanting second to someone who's only been in Formula One for a couple of seasons. So Ferrari really have kind of shot themselves in the foot with all this. And it's been an absolute mess of a situation which they've just not handled. Yeah.
I mean, you're right. If they had that subordinate driver, if they had that clear number 2, which, I mean, potentially, they couldn't not promote Leclerc to the first team effectively. But at the same time, maybe they weren't expecting him to be as quick as he is, and maybe they weren't expecting Vettel to underperform like he has. I mean, let's not forget, 2017 and 2018, he was Hamilton's main competition for most of the season. And he's just not been on it this season. The combination of that and Leclerc just been incredible. I mean, the guy's, what is he, like 22 or something? It's absolutely, he's been so good. I think it's a combination of that and just the pressure it's brought with them. And they just didn't see it coming. And that's what it all stems from. I think you're right, Owen. It does. But at the same time, being a new strategist as well. Because their strategies this year have been appallingly bad. We can see, I mean, we watch a lot of F1 between us. We know a lot about the sport. But we don't work in the sport. We don't know the ins and outs of the tyres and the fuel and the engine. And we don't know these drivers personally. We can see things that are just blatantly obvious.
Yeah, we don't have the data and we're not paid to do it. They have both. They really should be pulling out better results than this. Like, it's a weird situation in Formula One where you have 3 very competitive cars that are fighting for what, just coming down to the cars that should be, like, we should have had one of the most competitive seasons ever, and Mercedes have walked away with it 4 races early.
Yeah, it's mad, isn't it? Yeah, let's just round out. I mean, we'll talk about this more in the preview, I'm sure, but we're going to have to cut it here. Got some things to get doing. But yeah, so Lance Stroll of Racing Point, he was 19th, had a suspension failure. Honestly, I barely even noticed he was in the race. Just pretty nondescript for him. Valtteri Bottas of Mercedes, he went after 51 laps with a hydraulics failure. I think it's his first mechanical failure since Austria last year. Real rare failure of mechanical failure for Mercedes. But yeah, so it happens. I mean, I do feel sorry for him. He's doing a decent job this race, but You never know. Next year could be his time to shine. But yeah, so that's the show. Thank you, lads, for joining us. Really do appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And be sure to check us out on YouTube. We're on Spotify. We are on Apple Music. We're on Pocket Casts, Omni Studio. Just search for the Formula One Grid Talk. And also be sure to keep it tuned to the F1 Chronicle for all the latest F1 news as well. We'll be back in a week's time to preview the last race of the year, Abu Dhabi, the first December race ever maybe in F1, maybe for a very long time at least, but obviously we will get into all that. Thank you for joining us. See you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.